I'm Allie. I came out after 20 years of marriage and I have 3 kids.
I'm Melissa and I have 2 kids and I came out at 37 after an 11-year marriage.
This podcast is about coming out later and the struggles and victories that come with it.
When coming out feels like the end of the world, but it's really just the beginning.
This is the Lesbian Chronicles. Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles, where Melissa has makeup on today.
I have on makeup. I got dressed today. It's a rare occurrence.
Do you have a meeting or something?
No, I'm doing stand-up tonight.
Oh, sweet.
And I'm going to Second Friday, so I had to get dressed.
Oh my God, I forgot about Second Fridays tonight.
Oh, are you going to come?
No, I'm not going to come because I have dinner plans, but I wish you would come tomorrow to the Oakhurst Wine Crawl.
I really want to go, but I have, my son has his coding camp, and I've got a birthday party that's like super important to my daughter. Otherwise, but also I don't want to pay $45 to like not drink wine.
I know, but you know, it's $60 to not drink wine.
60?
I know. I went to get my tickets and that's $60 and then a $10 fee. I checked out. I'm like, God, I better really tie one on Saturday.
I'm really glad I'm not going now. Jeez. They don't
and
have
it
like
might rain.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be okay. I even talked Jamie into coming.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Especially because she just moved Oakhurst. And so I feel like she needs to like see the.
Is it the Decatur or the Oakhurst?
Oakhurst.
Oakhurst Wine Festival.
So it'll be like right in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So we can stumble
you guys
home.
Have fun.
Yeah.
I will save my $60 since everything on the planet costs more money right now and my head's exploding.
Where is the Second Friday?
It is at Sister Luisa's church.
Oh, yeah, kind of near me.
Yeah. That's what part of town is that?
Isn't that like East Atlanta? Kind of
I guess it's East Atlanta.
Edgewood,
I guess that's
okay. Oh my God, maybe I'll talk the couple we're having dinner with into coming, the straight couple.
You absolutely should. The straight couple. Oh, okay. Well, maybe not. It starts at 7:00 this time too. They're testing like a little like social hour first.
Oh, that's cool.
To see if we can get some more people that maybe like isn't so much the late night crowd. So. Yeah, exactly.
Here.
This would have been a great one for you to go.
I know, damn it. And
but I'm going to have to go to. I'm going to go to that, and then I'm going to drive over to MSR. I'm going to do stand up, and then I'm going to come back.
Oh my God! Wow, that sounds like a lot.
It does sound like a lot.
Well, we have an awesome guest today. Would you like to do the intro?
Sure. This is. I guess I'll call you my friend Ray, since we've dove in really deep on some stuff with each other lately.
Oh my God. That's so nice of you. I'm like fangirling with you guys. You guys are like little celebrities. But I have messaged you, Melissa. Yes,
how did you guys find each other?
Through the podcast.
Yeah. So she's shared with me a little bit about
DMs, but not in that way.
Right.
Slipped into the DMs. I love it.
Well, I don't feel like I'm super qualified to like kick off your story, Ray. So if you want to give us a little rundown, and we'll go from there.
That sounds good.
Okay, a little rundown's pretty hard, but I can.
It can be a big rundown. It doesn't have to be a little rundown.
I can remember.
Yeah.
So, I would say my story starts as far as got my attention was when I was a teenager. I was probably 16 or so. And a friend of mine worked at a department store where this woman who was a very obvious lesbian, very masked lesbian, worked. And I had the biggest crush on her. Like, I didn't hide it. I told my friends I loved her. But it never came up in conversation with us like, oh, she's gay. It's, oh, she thinks she's cute. You know, I was pretty promiscuous as a teenager. And I think now looking back that I was literally just searching for this, filling this void that nobody was checking off. And I didn't understand my friends who loved having sex with guys, who just, you know, had all these feelings. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just not with the right one. But the fact that I had this huge crush on this woman, it was never like discussed or brought to my attention, I guess, that, hey, this might mean you're gay. So
were your
around
friends
that
calling you out? Like when you would say that to your friends, you said you were honest about it. Were they saying like,
no,
nothing?
And that's no,
Okay.
but and I wasn't with a friend group that would have been like, ew, that's gross. I was with a friend group who thought it was funny. And actually in high school, they used to call my sister a lesbian because she had this poster. It's like this, I think it's this popular picture of these two women kissing, and it's black and white, and it's pretty hot. But she had it in her room like all of our years of high school, and everybody would joke that she was gay. But it was never like a teasing thing. It was just, you know. Um, so it was about the same time, I want to say, that my dad's best friend left her husband for a woman. And that didn't even get my attention either. It was just kind of a whatever thing, you know. But then I ended up with my now ex-husband, and I kind of like you, Allie. I knew I wanted babies. Like that's what I knew I wanted, and I knew the easiest way to get it
Yeah.
was with a man. And this man was a few years older than me, and he like love bombed me, and it was so it was so uncomfortable even then. But to me, because I'd been with so many assholes, this was like, oh, he's great.
Yeah.
He, you know, he's just showering you with attention. And obviously now I know it was unhealthy, but I ultimately convinced myself to love him. And it was an unhealthy relationship from the start, but I didn't know any better. I was almost 17. He was
Oh.
20.
Oh, you were young,
And
young.
he,
Wow.
young.
Yeah.
And he came from this very traditionally Hispanic Catholic family. And so, you know, he was in that school of thought that sex before marriage was a sin, but so was birth control. So then we had a baby.
How old were
I
you?
was 19,
Oh,
almost
wow.
20,
Okay.
almost 20. To say I was kind of stuck, um, I I think that would explain our relationship and how it survived the following years. But I was pressured into marrying him, um, not just by him, but oddly enough, by my family, who thought, well, you know, you guys have a child together, you should probably get married. So I put off moving in with him until 2 weeks before my due date. And we moved in together. And a friend had loaned me the L Word DVD set.
Oh, boy.
And is that not the like gateway drug to?
It totally is. Oh,
So I was watching it one evening when he came home. I hadn't had my baby yet. And he came home from work, and I was watching it, and he's like, "What are you watching?" And I'm not thinking anything of it. I was like, "Oh, it's called the L Word. Do you want to watch it with me?" So it was like an opening scene, and it was dirty, and he lost his mind.
oh no.
He was like, "Oh, yes." He said, "You will not watch this in our house. If you're watching this, it must mean you are interested in it, and absolutely not. Give it back and do not ever watch anything like
Oh
this
my
again."
God.
And I was young and dumb, and he scared me. But the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I am very drawn to it. Like, there is something about it that intrigues me very much. But what am I going to do? I'm about to have a baby, you know? So I guess I stuffed all of those feelings for a little while. And then I would say fast forward to about 6 years into our marriage. That person I mentioned who had left her husband for a woman, she and her wife, I kept in touch with them. And I was invited to her wife's birthday party. And I wanted to go so badly because I knew it was going to be a group of lesbians, and that's where I wanted to be. And so I tried my best to go and told him, you know, this was my plan. And he sabotaged it. I wasn't
Oh,
able to go. he left me home with our sick child. And so I was super bummed about that. But I mean, now I know he figured it out before I did.
Right.
So I planned a coffee date with this woman whose birthday it was to make it up to her. And we went and had coffee, and I started kind of picking her brain, and she realized how interested I was. It wasn't just your average girl who's like, hey, what's it like? I was asking lots of questions, and I knew that her and her wife had an open marriage, and not that I was interested in this particular woman, but that kind of fascinated me too. And so that was the start of what turned into a very complicated 6-year friendship that had very blurred lines of friendship.
With the coffee date.
With the coffee date, yes.
Okay.
And her wife, who I was close to growing up, sent me a message not too long after and said, you remind me so much of myself. You always have. And I just want you to know that you have permission to explore with my wife.
Whoa.
Well, yeah. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
I wasn't attracted to her that way, but I really did like the attention I got from her. And I know it was very selfish, and it caused a lot of pain and problems, but I was trying to figure out this for myself by way of her.
Right.
And so she was definitely along for the ride. We got very close, and my husband hated her, and she hated my husband, of course.
Right.
And
what's happening during this with your friend, who's her wife?
Oh, well, okay. So I politely declined her offer, but then they invited, or I take that back. Her wife invited me to go to Pride with them that year, and I wanted to go so badly. And so I told my husband, and he said, you will absolutely not go. If you go, then we're over. And if you go, then that
just
obviously means you, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
He was already
when I
pretty
say that he was
threatened, I
consoling,
think.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. And like I said, he had his suspicions, and he kind of had it figured out before I did. And so he thought if he kept me from exploring this, then nothing would happen. So I didn't go to Pride. And at this point, our friendship was, like I said, it was sometimes inappropriate because there was a lot of flirting. And I think that you could classify it as an emotional affair at that point. And so she was doing a lot of hiding things from her wife, and I was not aware of this. So they went to Pride, and that weekend, her wife tried to get into her phone and realized she changed her passcode. And apparently shit hit the fan. So I get a message from my friend saying, I can't talk to you anymore. I can't answer any questions. I'm sorry. And then I get a scathing message from her wife that night. Basically, I told you can sleep with her. I didn't tell you could have a relationship with her. Those are two different things, And mind you, I don't think that I realized it was inappropriate, especially from me being, new to this, not knowing what an open marriage consists of. I didn't think it was harmful. If you're allowing your wife to sleep with me, then can't she have this friendship, what I called friendship with me,
Yeah.
I can't say it seemed innocent, but I guess I didn't realize that her wife was breaking the rules that they had, So things were not good with her and I. And so for a few days, I didn't have any answers. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what this wife had found out. But really, I thought to myself, there's nothing to find out. I think that what it boiled down to was that her wife was hiding something from her and crossed a line. and a boundary that they had in place. So somehow we were able to repair that relationship. And
all three of you, or just you and the woman?
Well, all three of us technically, but from that point forward, her wife was very passive aggressive with me. She was just never, she's kind of like, oh, I love you, but from a distance, kind of just, it was awkward. And so her wife spent a lot of time with me, and I'm sure that caused a lot of problems with them that I later found out. They separated, and I was referred to as the homewrecker.
Oh, geez.
And I did not know any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of any of this. And this will tie into, the pool is small, so everybody knows everybody. The wife, not my friend, the wife's best friend had a girlfriend that was married to a man. And I would always hear these stories about her. And, they would talk a lot of crap about her because she wasn't going to leave her husband. And, they were on again, off again. And it was just so much drama. But I just remember hearing about her often. So anyway, this friendship continued for a few more years. And then they decided to move out of state, which was a huge blessing because at this point, our friendship was so tumultuous. And I think that there were too many feelings involved. I think that she was really resentful that she never got anywhere with me. And probably resentful of the fact that I did use her in the sense that she was like my drug. I had access to this world that I was really curious about. And I got this attention that I craved that I never liked from men.
Right.
And it felt safe. I was married and she was married, although, she had less rules. It just felt safe, but it was on again, off again. And when she said they were moving, I was relieved. That's all I felt was good. You guys go and fix your marriage. And I think that our friendship at a distance will be much better.
Right.
So they left, and I started talking to one of my best friends about how I needed a new lesbian in my life. And so that was the first time exactly rent a lesbian. And I'm like, where do I find one? But, that was the first time that I actually said something to anybody about, I feel like I need this in my life. And it's so funny because she is someone I never expected this to come out of her mouth, but she said, well, when I dated so-and-so, and she went on to tell me that she had a 3-year relationship with a woman 15 years ago. And I was floored. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So it was a relief. And I felt like it was a sign that she was telling me about this. And so I could probably move forward with my opening up, about what I'm kind of struggling with. And it happened with another friend who was a new friend to me. She and I got to know each other, and she said, I only dated women until I went to college. And again, I was shocked. I never would have expected it. And it just, came up so casually in conversation. And so I thought, you know what, this is something that just keeps presenting itself, and I need to figure it out because I don't just want a new lesbian in my life because I need a new friend, And so the person who popped up in my head was that married to a man girlfriend from the other friends.
Yeah.
And I knew I had seen her pop up on Facebook as, people you may know so many times. And so I looked her up, and we had a bunch of mutual friends. And I thought, you know what, I'll just send her a friend request and see what happens. Well, so she quickly accepted my friend request, and I sent her a message and I said, hi, I just want to introduce myself. I'm not some creeper. We have a bunch of mutual friends, and this is how I know you. And she said, Yep, I'm an open book, ask me anything. And I said, Well, I'm kind of struggling and I'm married to a man, but I think maybe I shouldn't be. And I said, And I know that you were married to a man because I know this about you. And
Was she
so
surprised you
she
knew that
was,
information?
I think she was bothered a little bit, yes,
Yeah.
because she thought she was very private about it, but in reality, everybody knew.
Right.
And so I think she thought it was her little secret. And so I didn't divulge too much. I knew a lot more than I told her I knew, but I just wanted her to know I knew the basics, and just so that it could, open that door of communication. So her and I started talking. I don't know, we talked for probably 3 hours that night. And then the next day she messaged me, and that turned into nonstop talking. And I thought, oh no, I think this is more than I signed up for originally.
Right.
I think
This
more
was
than my
just a friend
intention.
request.
The friend request, yes. Uh, so she said we probably talked for a couple of weeks, and she said, I really want to meet you. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for that, but I do things I'm not ready for all the time. So I figured, why not? And I was very unhappy in my marriage. I will say that I wanted a divorce many times in this marriage. So this wasn't me like suddenly, stepping out on a great marriage. It was rough. So we met one day, and when she got out of her car and walked over to me, I just thought, oh my God, I'm going to marry her.
Whoa.
And I don't know if that was just this like fairy tale, this is what I need it to be, but
Yeah, like you're putting
I guess
everything on
you
her.
manifest what you put out there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all I have to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do, yes, is when you look at her, you say, I'm going to marry her.
Noted.
So yeah, don't take relationship advice from me. I can tell you for sure I'm the last person. But she was very enthusiastic about me, and she had now been out for, I don't know, a handful of years, and not obviously with that woman anymore. She had had a couple more relationships since that. She was so enthusiastic about me, and uh, it was like a whirlwind, She wanted to see more of me, and, we were talking all the time. And so 2 days after we first met, I went to her house, and we ended up kissing. And I went home that night and asked for a divorce.
Oh my God. No.
Not necessarily because I was so sure about her, but because I was sure that I was gay and sure that I could not carry an affair. That wasn't something I could handle. And I guess I felt like it was my way out. Like, okay, now I have a leg to stand on, because
Yeah.
I mentioned divorce so many other times and I couldn't seem to get out. But if I'm gay, then maybe he'll let me go. Well, it was not that easy.
Oh boy.
He lost it. We stayed up all night, and he made a lot of threats to me. And he's not a bad guy, but I can tell you, hurt people will do some crazy things.
Yeah.
And say some crazy things. And I can honestly say he was mostly an asshole while I was married to him, but we were so young and so emotionally immature that we both had, so much baggage from our childhood, and so many reasons why our marriage was never going to work, even if I wasn't gay. But he tried to bargain with me, and he said, I know I've been horrible, and I think I can change your mind. Just give me 30 days. to become the person you need me to be and save our marriage. And if you haven't changed your mind in 30 days, then I will let you go without a fight. And I was scared. I thought I have to do this because I need an easier out than what he's going to give me at this point.
Right.
Um, so I had to gather my sister and best friend and tell them everything at this point and say, I met a woman. I kissed a woman. I asked for divorce. And so they both told me, if you're going to do this and give him the 30 days, you cannot see her. And I was not prepared to do that because, when you finally get that, you don't want to let it go.
Yeah,
And
it's a drug.
it was this, yeah, it was absolutely a drug and something I'd never felt before. And so I was selfish and reckless, and so I agreed to give him the 30 days, but then continued to see and talk to her. And about 5 days in, he had asked me one night if I had watched a video he sent me on marriage and how to save marriage. And I said I did watch it and I still don't want this. So
Right.
I want a divorce. And he got up and walked past me and said, in our vows, we said till death do us part, right? And that scared the shit out of me.
I was scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
He got a little scary at that point. But we separated and stayed under the same roof. And he finally asked me, is there someone else? And I told him there was. I felt like it gave me a leg to stand on,
Right.
and I felt like I needed that because if I didn't have enough proof that I was gay, his question was, how do you know you're gay? How do you know? And so I had to tell him. I dipped my toes in the water and figured out that's exactly what I want.
Right.
And at this point, I had not slept with her or anything, but it was pretty physical. And again, enough to know and confirm for me that I was gay. So I guess fast forward through a lot of crap. The divorce was rough. He was ugly, understandably, I guess. I ended up having to leave the home with my kids late one night because he flipped out. And so then 6 months later, I moved in with my catalyst, who is my wife now.
What happened with her? Because she was married too, originally.
Originally, she was married, yes. And actually, I found out when we started talking that she was still legally married and didn't file for divorce until her and I got together.
Okay.
She ended up leaving her husband. She had an affair. That girlfriend, as you know, she was the girlfriend who was married. She had an affair that I think she thought was secret, but I'm pretty sure her ex-husband was well aware. And she had this woman, around her family at holidays, all the things. And, she was disguised as her best friend. And they had an on again, off again relationship for a few years that was pretty messy. But then she had a couple other relationships after that. And something that stands out to me now is one of the women I had asked, like, why didn't that work out? And she said, well, she wanted me to date her kids and I wasn't interested in that. And I thought, well, I have 3.
Yeah.
So what exactly do you mean by that? But man, she was so excited to do these mom things with me. Anytime I would talk to her, if I'm at a baseball practice or gymnastics, she's like, I can't wait to mom with you.
Oh.
And that was exciting to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any children of her own. And she's 10 years older than me. But it was exciting because I parented alone the entire 10 years of my marriage. He was a very, what did he call it? Quality over quantity dad. So it was quality time, but in, short bits rather than a lot of help. And I couldn't wait. I rented a place actually for the 6 months and stayed mostly at her place and told her that my kids needed the time and, I needed the divorce to be final until we moved in together. And looking back, I really wish I would have taken even more time, but hindsight's 2020. She definitely seemed like she was all about the family life and wanted to be a mom. And so when we moved in together, I gave her a lot of control of parenting, like, you're in it with me. Here, take the reins and let's do this. But I am also a recovering codependent. And I think that all I knew was that kind of codependency where I let somebody else kind of dictate, how I live my life. And I'm a people pleaser and she has a very domineering personality. And it was so nice to finally feel like, oh my God, I don't have to carry all this myself,
How old are the kids?
So my kids were just turned 5, 8, and 11 at the time.
Okay.
So they were little.
Yeah.
And they warmed up to the idea of this pretty quickly and easily. The divorce was pretty traumatic because of the way their dad handled it, but the me being gay wasn't like as devastating as I imagined it might be to them. And when I introduced her to them, it was a friend. It wasn't, a romantic partner. But then they quickly figured it out,
Right.
and on their own, and they were pretty excited about it. So while I wish I had given them and myself more time, I was just convinced that all kids need is a happy mom, and this was finally making me happy. This was,
Right.
this was what it was going to take. And so we moved in together, and there's that honeymoon phase for anything, but it really quickly started to be difficult. I understand, you're a 40-something-year-old woman who's never had kids in your home before like this, and suddenly you have 3.
Yeah.
I can imagine that's a huge adjustment. But I think, you have to know what you're signing up for. And I don't think she did. And I certainly didn't realize, what the reality of it would be like. And so we had some big conflicts with parenting. And she wanted to parent the way she was parented, which was very strict and very different from the way I was raised. And she had her own ideas of how to do things. And I came from a place where I wasn't made to feel like a great mom. So I thought maybe I need help. Maybe I need somebody else to tell me how to do it. And I regret that,
Yeah.
but I was so weak, I was weak in a lot of ways, and I was just naive, I guess. Because again, a lot of the control that she displayed looked like love. And so I allowed it for a long time. And I then started going to therapy because things weren't working, and working on my codependency was what helped me realize what the issue was and stand up to her and say, like, I can't do things your way anymore. It very much felt like her home because we moved into it, and it has not even still to this day, doesn't feel like our home. And so I don't always feel like I get to make the rules and make the calls.
Right.
And basically, me going to therapy and recovering from being so codependent uh, didn't go over well with her, and hasn't, because she really needed the version of me that could be controlled. And it's just been so much conflict. There are mental health issues at play with her that are kind of newly discovered. But it's made a lot of things make sense as far as why she kind of operates the way she does. And I've learned a lot about myself, from being a baby gay 5 years ago to to now. I mean, a lot of what I thought I wanted has changed, and a lot of what I thought that I could tolerate has changed.
So much
So,
of what you're saying is resonating with, like, when Melissa and I, it's like, had I married my catalyst, everything you're describing is what my catalyst felt like. I mean, it was like, I'm coming out of this
absolutely.
marriage. I'm not sure-footed yet. I am codependent. Like, I know that about myself. I latched on in some ways and just let her be the boss. And then as I got stronger, got out of that relationship, but you married into that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see where, not that it's not going to work, maybe it will, but it's like I could see where that would be so tumultuous had I played it out the way
Mm-hmm.
that you did.
Absolutely. And I think about that every time I listen to you guys, because I'm envious that you guys both were wise enough and strong enough to get out of your catalyst relationships. Because I would say that if I was going to give anybody advice who's just coming out, it's not to marry your catalyst.
Yeah.
Unless it's a fantastic, healthy relationship, but give it a lot of time. Because there's so much to be figured out about yourself. Like, you guys have both been in more than one relationship with a woman. And so with that, you guys learn like what you want and what you definitely don't want,
Right.
and figure out what are deal breakers. And I can't say there haven't been a lot of good parts of having married her in
Of
this
course.
relationship, but there has been so much hard stuff that I would not do over again, and I would not put my kids through
Do you feel like
again.
is she committed to the process and you, or is it like it's an unstable situation where it's like you don't really know if you're safe? Not safe is the wrong word, but like emotionally safe there.
Stable.
No,
Stable.
no, it's very unstable.
Unstable, yeah. And
It's
for codependent
incredibly
people, that's
unstable.
very difficult. Like, I don't like that. I don't like to not predict. I don't want to not
Mm-mm.
know what's happening. Like, I relate to that. Like, that must feel very insecure.
It does feel insecure, and I mean, we even separated last year for about a month because we just reached a breaking point. And at that time, I felt so done. I can't even say I was sad when she left the home. I felt relief. And that told me a lot of what I need to know about where our relationship is that um, it it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't take so much work. When we got back together, it was on the premise that she was going to start medication for her mental health stuff, and that I was going to give it time, because that felt fair. And I felt like I owed it to myself to see if that version of her was going to help our marriage work.
Yeah.
But I think about the things that you had mentioned in the Catalyst commonality episode about the things like red flags about her bashing my ex-husband. That's been a big one. And that's been one of our biggest conflicts, is her hating him, even now that his and my relationship is repaired,
Right.
and her making co-parenting incredibly hard.
Right.
And that's been tough because all I wanted, and I said this from the day I left him, is I wanted to peacefully co-parent with him. And I hoped that one day he would get to that place, but I knew he was angry and hurt, you know? And once we did finally get to that place, boy, did she show her true colors.
Yeah.
She is insecure about it, and she calls him names, and she does anything she can to put, you know, a wedge against between us and make it hard for me. That's been a bone of contention, because now I'm at the point where I can't even tell her that I discussed something with him about the kids, you know?
Right.
And that's not the picture I had in my mind of having a partner and having an ex-husband where I'm co-parenting, you know?
No.
Um,
And it's not healthy for, I mean, the kids need to see this united
Yep.
friendship. I mean, if I could just, standing on the outside looking in, if I could give you any advice, let it be, do what you know is right, and don't let her be mad. Let her walk out. Let her be unstable. Let her be irritated. Don't let her say, you know, oh, the kids are living here, so it's my, you know, I get a big say in it. Like, you have to stand in that discomfort. I've had to do that, where it's just like, this is how it's going to be. I'm sorry that you don't like it. I know this is what's right, and I hope you'll stay. But if you don't, I'm okay. Like, I'm not, like, you don't want to sacrifice that piece, irregardless of where the chips end up falling. I know this.
I think it's also important to kind of evaluate how you got here and kind of forgive yourself for doing
Yes.
everything so quickly. Like, we've all been in that situation.
Totally, we
where we're
have.
excited. And on top of that, like, talking about how, you know, you met your ex-husband at a young age. You didn't have time to develop the skills
No.
to know how to navigate these kind of relationships.
It's true.
And it's so easy just to kind of let yourself fall and get into this stuff. But I think it is important that you're recognizing that, and, you know, there's room to repair.
Yeah. And I do see that now. I think there was a time where I didn't see that being a possibility, where I felt stuck and like I've made my bed, you know, now I have to lay in it. You guys were talking about, like, what are you afraid of, and the fears of being alone. And all I could think of that when I was listening was, I fantasize about the freedom of being alone, because I haven't been single since I was 17 years old. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't known my adult self. My adult gay self, you know, is new to me too.
The problems that are there now will continue to amplify. Like, I love what codependent people don't like, worrying about the reaction of somebody else, because it affects us so deeply. If they're upset or if they're mad, we start to worry, we get anxious and upset. And it's like, I think that I know that feeling, and I know trying to, like, appease somebody's mood by just not bringing up maybe that your husband came by to pick up the kids, or not bringing up that you had a conversation, because it's just easier than having to deal with the mood on the other side. But I think it's like, to your point, it's so important to show up and know, I had a conversation today with him, and just be big, you know, don't hide those things. Be exactly who you are and what you are, and let the chips fall where they may.
Of course, it's going to be a process, but at this point, I don't have anything to lose. And before, I thought I had everything to lose. Now I am in a place where I know I will be okay if this doesn't work. And
Totally.
I'm also in a place where I feel like I have a lot of atoning to do for how I may have put my kids on the back burner for her. I could give anybody advice, it would be to not do that. It's so hard to not prioritize this new partner of yours who's giving you the world. I also know that they're okay, and I know that they'll be okay. And they do know this relationship has been on the verge of devastating a lot of times, probably more than is healthy. So they're also not devastated by the idea of us not being together anymore because it's been really hard on the kids and they've sacrificed a lot. I mean, something that sounds small maybe, as my kids having friends over has been not allowed since we've
What's her
lived here.
reason? Like, what would she
And
ever say? Like, I don't understand how that would ever be even a realm of possibility.
I know, and it's crazy that I allowed it, but as you know, just like you said about
Yeah,
being codependent, you hit the nail on the head. That is exactly how I felt.
it's not worth
And
it.
so her reasoning used to be that, we have dogs and she didn't ever want to be liable if one of the dogs were to, bite a kid. And I thought that's the craziest thing. Like nobody gets sued for that anymore. It's
Yeah,
not a
well,
thing.
and it's just like control the dog
And
and move
then
on.
exactly. And then it became, I just don't want a house full of kids. I can't handle that kind of chaos. And I'm like, okay, well, when you're not here, what about that? And it's always some other excuse. It's, it's control. It's the fact that she's not crazy about kids.
She probably can't admit it, but she's also probably jealous of the kids because they get your attention, they get your love, they are part of your ex-husband who she hates. So it's like they symbolize everything that she's not
Yes,
feeling right now, which is her own stuff, not them at all. They're too little to have done anything.
exactly. And yes, there has been so much competition over my attention. And I didn't see it for what it was probably until a couple years ago. And then when I did recognize it, I thought, oh my God, that's gross.
Yeah, it's
Like
weird.
you are competing with my children for
Right,
my attention.
right.
Um, there would be even issues of how long I spoke to them for, how often I talked to them on the weekends that they were with their dad. And she's like, I can't even get all of your attention, can I? And again, not until I healed a little bit more did I look back and realize that's not right.
Yeah.
Why did I ever allow that?
Get
And
stronger. You start to, like our group, when we went to group therapy, that's when I started to really shed my catalyst. Like I just did, there was no more room for it because it's just, I got stronger and it sounds like that's what's happening right now for you.
that's such a good way to put it, shedding your catalyst.
Yeah.
Because it is, it's literally like you outgrow them.
I outgrew her. She
Hmm.
was older than me. She was more of a partier than I was. She was what I needed to get me to point B, but I outgrew it.
And like you said, looking back, that relationship would never fit you today,
Never,
right?
never.
Right. And I think that mine, I probably outgrew it a while ago, but when you're married, you try harder to make it work and make it last. And for the stability, or seeming stability that it provided for me and my kids, I'm trying to make it work,
Right.
until I realize it just doesn't work anymore.
Is there a path to even just not, you don't have to get divorced, but like legally separate for a term longer than a month? Like, could you move? I don't know. Like, I know you don't want to uproot the kids again, but to do 6 months in like a lease somewhere just to kind of get clarity. Like, I feel like it's really hard to get clarity when you're living with someone.
You are right. And that is actually what I've been figuring out more recently is living apart.
Yeah.
Um, apparently, there's a term called a partners who are either married or together and just live apart. And while that's not my idea of what I want for a relationship, um, especially because I wanted somebody who wanted to jump in and be a part of my kids' lives too. I'm not
Right.
selfishly just wanting a relationship for myself. I want somebody who wants the things I want in life and who's interested in my life. And that involves my three children largely. So the idea of being apart like that, I feel like it would just be the end. I don't see like a 6-month trial period where we try and figure things out. I think it's pretty clear, that we want different things,
Yeah.
and that we've probably both outgrown each other.
Right. And is there like how does that feel when you think about like sometimes do you get online and like look maybe where you could move and it gets like hopeful or exciting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
definitely does.
Yeah.
And that probably says a lot,
Yeah,
as
for
far as where I
sure.
am emotionally.
Right. Would she be shocked?
Yes. So maybe yes and no. Yes, because I don't think she ever thinks I will do it,
Yeah.
because I, I've we've we have repaired from, you know, so many horrible fights.
Right.
Um, and I think the fact that I couldn't leave probably saved us in a lot of ways because I tried so much harder to make it work. But I think now, with the possibility of me leaving, I think she would be shocked that I actually followed through with it. And I think that she quickly forgets how bad a shape we are in because
Right.
we somehow bounce back and reach this new artificial level of okay. And I think that degrades each time. I think it thins out quite a bit. So now we're at the point where we really tiptoe around everything. We don't talk about anything important or significant because it'll start a fight. I think that we're in the place where, it's not you're wrong and I'm wrong. It's we just aren't compatible and
No, like it was
want very
good for
different
a
things.
phase, right? It was what you needed at the time, and
Yeah.
now you don't. And who's to say that, maybe in 5 years things could look different? But
Yeah.
I think it's brave to take the step to say that it didn't work. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
make you, like you said, nobody's wrong. It just didn't, it was good for what it was at the moment and not anymore.
And I'm not somebody who thinks that you have to compromise in a marriage so much that you're unhappy.
Right.
Um, I think she is very much one of those that I will suffer through this because I signed up for it, but that's not how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
So that's something that's been an ongoing issue for years, is that she says she's in these step parenting groups that, all tell her that it takes years to form a bond with stepchildren, and it can take years to love your stepchildren. And, she felt pressured, like I was forcing something on her or expecting her to love them like I do, which I never did.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I expected her to love him in her own way. Now that we're almost 5 years in, and I'm frustrated that she has, these surface level relationships with my kids, um, it's too little too late. Even if I do see the efforts now,
Yeah.
it's something I think I even resent now, to see like, why now? I've
Yeah.
been asking you and begging you, um, to not treat them like second class citizens, and
Yeah.
to make them feel like you love them in your own way that is very special. Um, but she's very much an authoritarian kind of parent, and that doesn't come with a lot of love and affection. And I think that I had this misconception that marrying a woman, you would automatically get somebody who's nurturing. And that's not the case, because that's not true for every woman.
No, for sure
Not
not.
not every woman's maternal. And so in all fairness, I did have very high expectations of her that maybe were a little bit unfair,
Right.
but it's also what I know my kids deserve
Right.
and what I want in a partner. And so that's been pretty disappointing to me, thinking, God, it's not an automatic being with a woman. They're not just going to step in and love your kids in a way that you want them to. And
And it
that's
does.
hard.
I think it does, like in all fairness, like it does take a little bit of time, but it, like with my stepson, at the beginning, it was tumultuous because I too had kids. So our kids would fight, and then it would create all this turmoil that sometimes would make me think, God, is it easier to be with someone without kids? Because then here, mine don't feel like they're arguing with this other kid. But the truth is, I think both bring different sets of hard. But I think the difference is that you feel like your partner is, like in my case, we were both making an effort to create this family. We were both making an effort to find the joy in this kid, like look for the good, be loving even when it doesn't feel loving. And I think that grows over time. I mean, by 5 years, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, look for the fun, look for the good.
Yeah.
Those are actual words I used. I said, can you see the good in them instead of finding every fault that they have and picking them apart? It's exhausting and it puts so much pressure on me. And then I quickly learned I had to be the middleman and always be present in any interaction they had. But then she would be upset and accuse me of hovering and trying to control, how she was to them. But I'm just trying to protect everybody.
And probably anxious as hell about are they going to say something that's she's going to deem wrong, and then now she's annoyed, and now you're annoyed, and you're defending them. It's like it's exhausting.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
And I have spent the better part of this last 5 years exhausted. That's probably the best way to put it. And so while our relationship's troubles take a toll on her, I feel like it's twice as hard for me because I am also battling this whole, I'm the mom, I'm the parent, I'm protecting my kids. And I'm not always in a position where I can freely do that without some sort of consequence.
Something we had to learn, like we went to therapy, was to love the woman you love the child. Like it may not feel authentic at the beginning, but it's like you're working towards loving the child. And that's how you love the woman. I think that, she seems like she's got her own inner demons to work out. I don't know her story. Obviously, she's not on here, but she probably has a lot of issues on her own to work out.
She truly does. And that's something that I have asked her to address for years. She only kind of dips her toes in and then scared, it scares her. And she's got a lot of healing to do. And this isn't all to bash her. There is a lot of great about her.
She's never had kids.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
Right. She's never had kids. And I can imagine that jumping into something like this, it looks prettier on the outside. Parenting is hard.
It is. It's hard. It's exhausting. It's interruptions. It's a constant thing. And so when you add someone else to that mix, it's never
it either works or it doesn't.
Yeah, it's never going to be just smooth sailing. Well, I'm so appreciative of how just vulnerable and authentic you've been. And I hope that you'll come back on and update us on what happens next. Like, I really hope you'll go on your own for a little while.
Yes, I really, really hope that that's what's next for me. And I think that there's going to be a lot of hard in that transition.
For sure.
Because it's still sad, even if there's so much of this relationship that's worn me down and I may be checked out of, it's still very sad. And, she was my first, and there's so much that goes with that. But if we've outgrown each other, then it's time to move on, and life's too short to be unhappy.
And not to say that it can't circle back down the road. I think it's maybe just part of your journey along the way. And I know it is hard because you look back and think of all these memories that were so fun and we had a blast and it felt like love at first sight and we were all these things, and that's all true. So I can see why it's hard to walk away from that.
Absolutely. And one more thing I will say is that she was so worried in the beginning that I would would have some struggle with her being the only woman I was with. And I, at the time, was like, oh my God, no, you're everything I want.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely at a point now where I'm like, what would it be like with other people? And what would other relationships be like? What would it be like to be with somebody who I'm more compatible with in
Right.
these ways, you know? And I feel guilty feeling that, but I mean, I have to be honest with myself. There is a curiosity there.
Right. And I think that is really important to bring up for people that are listening that think that it's the end all be all with the catalyst, because we've all felt that way. Melissa and I both were devastated when that relationship ended. We thought that that was it. Like, we met this person, and I remember saying that to my catalyst. Like, I don't need anyone else. I'm totally set. The truth is, you don't know that. You don't know that until you've been out for a long time.
Absolutely. And, you know, you said the other day, if you were to ask yourself, is this what I would want for my child?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, you know, that's like in Untamed. If this is not what I want for my child, then I shouldn't want it for myself. But similarly, if I was my best friend who was going through this, what would I tell her?
Right.
And
that's so true.
And I'm not doing any of the things that I would be telling my friend to do or suggesting, you know?
Right.
So those are some things to think about, you know, as far as gauging where you're at and where you could be.
I definitely think that's the litmus test, right? It's like, is this good enough for my daughter? And if the answer is no, it's not good enough for me.
Exactly. Because they are watching.
They are watching. And it's just, sometimes you get in it and you can't see what's really happening, or you continue to make excuses. I did that for a long time. I could justify the behavior because of something that happened with me or because of something that went down. And it's like, you have to like let all that go.
1000%. I have totally justified so much behavior. And honestly, I just sent a text last week and I said, I am not going to justify your behavior anymore.
Yeah.
But
it's true.
It's a codependent in me. I want to, I guess, control how you feel and how you operate and behave. Yeah. And that's hard to let go of.
It is very. I am the exact same way.
I think I think that we will always be working on it. I can't imagine that you can truly recover 100% from codependency, because those are our defaults, you know?
It's true. And it's like, that's why I think, like, as I've gotten more defined in who I am and I've evolved, the kind of partner that I require is somebody who doesn't trigger that in me.
And you and I both know that as codependents, we attract a certain type of person that knows how to use our codependency, and not saying they are horrible people, but it really works for them.
Totally.
You know, it's a process for sure.
It is a process. Well, I'm really, really thankful that you were so willing to come on and talk about that, because we have so many people in the exact same situation, maybe not married yet, but still deeply committed, living with people that likely they shouldn't be.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could give them advice. I wish I could talk to them if they wanted to reach out, because I feel like I've learned so much, and now I'm in a place where I can help guide somebody. And I know we don't always listen when we're in it, you know, up to our eyeballs, but just to get some wisdom from people who have been through it and look back, and these are my regrets and these are the lessons that I can share with you. Well, I will keep you guys updated.
Yes, keep us updated. And then I guess I would love to hear when you take that next step, and then let's talk about how that feels.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
Thank you so much, Ray, and have a great weekend.
Absolutely. You too. Thank you, Allie.
Bye-bye.
Want to support the Lesbian Chronicles podcast? Rate us and write a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We love listener feedback. If you'd like to share your story, email us at melissaandallie@gmail.com. That's Melissa, MELISA, and Allie, ALLI, @gmail.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Lesbian Chronicles.